You live in a world that worships a false god, and its name is more. You are taught to bow at its altar every single day. More tasks on your list, more projects on your plate, more side hustles draining the last of your evening light. You have been fed a sophisticated poison, a lie carefully engineered to keep you perpetually busy, perpetually distracted, and fundamentally weak. The lie is that success is born from this frantic activity, that you can multitask your way to a throne. But a throne built on a foundation of scattered sand will always collapse. The legendary swordsman Miyamoto Musashi understood this with chilling clarity. In his final years, he distilled a lifetime of war and wisdom into a simple, brutal principle: do nothing which is of no use. I want you to look at the chaos of your day, at the 100 fronts you try to fight on, and ask yourself with relentless honesty, how much of what you chase, from the moment you wake until your exhausted collapse, is of any true use? You have been told to think of your mind as a fortress, but you have misunderstood the nature of the battle. You believe it can defend 1,000 walls at once, but this is a fatal strategic error. Every new goal you set without abandoning an old one, every new ambition you add to the pile, is not a reinforcement. It is another breach in your defenses, another point of entry for the enemy of mediocrity. You tell yourself that you are diversifying your efforts, that you are building a resilient empire of achievement. But what you are actually doing is guaranteeing your own defeat across every single front. You are ensuring that no wall will hold. Miyamoto Musashi is said to have fought over 60 duels to the death, and he never lost. He did not achieve this by preparing for 60 enemies at once. He prepared for one. The one standing before him, the one whose defeat was the only thing that mattered in that universe, in that moment. That is the warrior's focus. The price for this divided attention is far higher than you imagine. When you split your focus, you are not giving 50% of your power to two different tasks. You are giving a fractured, pathetic fraction of your true potential to both, and a third fraction is lost to the friction of switching between them. Your professional work, the craft you claim to value, becomes shallow and riddled with errors. Your physical training, the forging of your body, becomes ineffective and stagnant. Your relationships, the very bonds that should give your life meaning, become hollow shells of obligation. You begin to exist everywhere and nowhere at the same time, a ghost haunting the hallways of your own life, leaving no impact, feeling no true connection. This is not a strategy for building a life of meaning. It is a meticulous recipe for becoming invisible, first to the world, and then, most tragically, to yourself. The path of the true warrior, the path Musashi walked, is one of relentless, brutal subtraction. It is a path of renunciation. Musashi had no permanent home, few possessions to his name, and for most of his life, he served no master. Every single element he shed was not a loss. It was a strategic victory against the tyranny of distraction. Each possession he abandoned was a chain he broke from his spirit, freeing him to focus on the one thing that mattered, his way. Now, you must turn that unforgiving gaze inward. What are you clinging to that keeps you from your way? Is it your desperate need for the approval of others? A need that forces you to say yes to 1,000 things that betray your soul? Is it your paralyzing fear of missing out, a fear that scatters your energy across a dozen trivialities? Or is it your endless list of 100 what-ifs that keeps you dreaming in place, never committing, never truly living? These are not assets. They are your chains, and they are choking the life out of you. Once you have seen the poison of the scattered mind for what it is, a web of chains designed to hold you captive, the path to freedom becomes one of singular, terrifying clarity. You do not break 1,000 chains with 1,000 different tools. You forge one blade sharp enough to sever them all. Consider the master swordsmith. He does not waste his fire forging a dozen mediocre blades, each one brittle and flawed. He pours all of his heat, all of his steel, and the entirety of his spirit into the creation of one. That single sword becomes more than metal. It becomes an extension of his will, a perfect instrument of purpose. Your primary goal in this life must become that sword. It must be the one singular objective that, if you were to accomplish it, would render everything else secondary. It is the one fire that must consume you. But how do you identify this blade among the rack of dull, rusted ambitions you have collected over the years? This requires a different kind of sight. You must look past what you think you should do, past the expectations of the world, and find the one thing you must do. What is the one skill, the one project, the one internal transformation that your very soul demands of you? Look back on the battlefield of your own life. Miyamoto Musashi did this when he reached the age of 30, and in a moment of brutal honesty, he realized that his impressive string of victories was not the product of true strategy, but perhaps of luck or the weakness of his opponents. What hard truth must you now face about your own pursuits? Which of your so-called victories have been hollow, and which path, long ignored, holds the weight of your true purpose? The process of finding your one goal is not an act of gentle discovery. It is an act of violent elimination. Take the long list of ambitions you carry, the one that weighs you down, and begin to cut. You must be ruthless. Look at each goal and ask, is this merely a distraction, a pleasant hobby masquerading as a purpose? Is this an obligation, a heavy stone placed in your hands by your family, your friends, your society? Or is this a product of your own fragile ego, a desire for status or recognition that has nothing to do with your core? You must cut them away, one by one, until only the essential remains. As Musashi wrote, you must learn to distinguish between gain and loss in worldly matters. Most of what you chase is a worldly loss, a theft of your limited time and energy. If you still find yourself lost in the fog of indecision, there is one question that acts as a beacon, a singular point of light that can burn through any confusion. Ask yourself this: what is the one thing I could do, such that by doing it, everything else will become easier or unnecessary? This is not a simple question of choosing a priority from a list. This is about identifying the critical lever that will move your entire world. It is about choosing a destiny. For Musashi, mastering the sword was not just about fighting. It was the key that unlocked the mastery of himself, his spirit, and his understanding of nature. His one goal was the path to everything. Once you have identified your sword, your singular purpose, you are ready to learn the mindset required to wield it. You are ready to step into the warrior's state of mind. You have built your ritual. You have fortified a sacred space in your day and have begun the relentless work of the daily cut. You have learned to say no to the outside world. But the true war has only just begun. The greatest enemy you will ever face does not send messengers or launch external assaults. It is already inside your fortress. The most significant threat to your focus will not be the distractions of the world, but the silent, insidious army of shadows that rises from the depths of your own mind. This is where most aspiring warriors fail. They prepare for a battle of logistics and scheduling, only to be undone by a war of the spirit. You must now become a master strategist of your inner world, for this is the only battle that truly matters. The first shadow to emerge from the fog is boredom. Repetitive, focused work, the very engine of mastery, is not exciting. It is monotonous. It is grueling. Your mind, conditioned by a world of endless novelty, craves stimulation. It will interpret the quiet discipline of your practice as a sign that you are on the wrong path. It will whisper that this boredom is proof that your goal is not your passion. This is a strategic deception. A true warrior understands that this field of monotony is not a wasteland to be escaped. It is the forge. It is the proving ground where commitment is tested and resilience is built. He does not run from the crushing weight of boredom. He sits with it. He stares into its vacant eyes. He endures it, and through that endurance, he overcomes it, transforming the lead of repetition into the gold of skill. When boredom has failed to break your lines, a more subtle shadow will advance, the specter of doubt. When your progress is slow, when the mountain peak remains stubbornly hidden in the clouds, this enemy will creep into your thoughts. Is this truly the right goal? Am I wasting my time, my life, on a path that leads nowhere? The doubt will feel rational, intelligent even. It will present evidence of your slow progress and the seemingly faster success of others. Here, you must rely on a higher form of vision. Musashi teaches us to perceive those things which cannot be seen. You must see the victory that is currently invisible to the impatient eye. You must hold faith in the unseen consequences of your daily actions. Trust the path, not because you can see the end, but because you have committed to the way. The final and most treacherous shadow attacks when you are at your strongest. Just when you are gaining momentum, when the daily cuts are becoming fluid and powerful, a new, shinier goal will appear on the horizon. It will seem more exciting, more promising, and perfectly suited to your talents. It will whisper that your current path is a dead end, and this new one is your true destiny. This is a lie. It is the most sophisticated trap your mind can set, a desperate attempt to escape the final, most difficult stages of mastery. Musashi admonished those strategists who were only concerned with coloring and showing off their technique, those who chased the brilliant bloom of the flower instead of patiently cultivating the strength of the root. Do not be seduced. The appearance of the better goal is the final test. When you learn to see this beautiful illusion for the treacherous shadow it is, and you hold your ground, the internal war is won. And in the silence that follows, you will find that victory itself has become a simple matter of course. When the army of shadows within your own mind has been met and defeated, when boredom, doubt, and the treachery of the better goal lie broken at your feet, a strange and profound silence descends. In this silence, you realize the truth of the warrior's way. The battle is already over. When you pour your entire life force, all your energy, and all your focus into one single, solitary channel, a remarkable transformation occurs. Mastery ceases to be a distant possibility. It becomes a simple, logical, and unavoidable consequence. Your victory is assured long before the first blow is ever struck. It becomes an inevitability. Think of your energy as water. A scattered stream spread across a wide field has no power. It is a shallow, stagnant marsh. But when all of that water is forced into a single deep channel, it becomes an unstoppable river that can carve through solid rock and sweep away any obstacle in its path. Your focused energy is that river. When it is no longer divided among a dozen worthless streams, its power becomes absolute. This is the principle behind Musashi's seemingly impossible claim that one man can beat 10, and 1,000 men can beat 10,000. It is not a boast, it is a statement of physics. A concentrated force will always annihilate a divided one. Nothing can stand in the way of this current for long. This is what Musashi called the spirit of winning. He wrote, "The way of the Ichi school is the spirit of winning, whatever the weapon and whatever its size." This reveals the deepest secret of his path. The victory is not in the technique, the weapon, or even the physical fight. It is in the spirit, a spirit forged in the fires of singular focus. When you have only one goal, your entire being becomes oriented toward its achievement. Winning is not an act you perform. It is a state you inhabit. It is in your posture, your gaze, your every breath. The enemy feels this before you even move. He feels he is facing not just a man, but a force of nature, and his own spirit breaks under the pressure of your absolute certainty. Miyamoto Musashi's undefeated record is the ultimate testament to this philosophy. He was undefeated not because he was born a god of the sword, but because no one he ever faced had dedicated themselves to their craft with his totality of focus. He brought the force of a river to every fight, while his opponents brought the force of a scattered stream. So the final question is not for me to answer, but for you. What could you become undefeated in? What area of your life, if you were to pour your entire soul into it, could you transform so completely that people would look at you with awe and call you a master? This is not a fantasy. It is not a hollow promise. It is the natural, logical, and inevitable outcome of a truly focused life. The music swells slightly, then softens into a calm, meditative tone. Narrator. Before you go, let us put this into practice. Find a quiet place, close your eyes, and breathe. In your mind's eye, see a forge glowing with a low fire. Gather all of your scattered goals, your anxieties, your endless to-do lists. One by one, place them into the flames. See them burn, melting down into a single pool of glowing liquid steel. Now, take up the hammer. With each steady rhythmic strike, you are not just shaping metal. You are forging your one true purpose. You are hammering away the impurities of doubt and distraction. Feel the heat. Hear the sound. Continue until all that remains is one single perfect and unbreakable blade. This is your focus. This is your way. Carry it with you. If this path resonates with the warrior in you, then subscribe to the channel to continue your training. Leave a like to signal your commitment to the way. And in the comments below, share the one sword you have now chosen to forge. The true battle is within. You have identified the sword. You have felt its weight in your hands and recognized it as your own. But a sword without the correct mindset to wield it is nothing more than a dangerous piece of metal. Now, you must learn the internal strategy that gives it life. In his masterpiece, The Book of Five Rings, Miyamoto Musashi saved his highest teaching for the very end. He called it the Book of the Void. Most who hear this term recoil, imagining a cold, nihilistic emptiness. This is a profound misunderstanding. The void, for a warrior, is not a state of absence. It is a state of pure, unbridled potential. It is a state of mind that has been ruthlessly cleared of all clutter, all noise, all false goals, and all distractions, so that the one true path forward becomes blindingly, overwhelmingly clear. You do not find the void. You create it by focusing your entire being on your one goal. Look inside your own mind. It is a chaotic battlefield, littered with the corpses of half-finished projects and the ghosts of paths not taken. It is filled with the incessant chatter of useless thoughts, the gnawing anxiety about goals you will likely never meet, and the dull ache of regret. The strategy of the void demands that you clear this sacred space. You must burn the dead and silence the ghosts. Musashi's tools for this were simple and timeless. Long periods of solitude, walking in nature, and a disciplined observation of his own mind. These practices were not for relaxation. They were for war. They were the methods he used to quiet the deafening noise of the world so that the one true signal, the voice of his purpose, could be heard without distortion. This is the difficult work of polishing the spirit, of sharpening the twofold gaze of perception and sight until no cloud of bewilderment remains. When you finally stop wanting 100 different things, you begin to see the one thing you truly need with a perfect, almost terrifying clarity. When your path is singular, your mind becomes an immaculate reflection of that path. This is the meaning behind Musashi's words, "In the void is virtue, and no evil." When your journey is dedicated to one sword, there is no longer any room for the evil of distraction, the poison of indecision, or the weakness of a divided will. Every action you take is clean. Every decision is precise. Every ounce of your energy is channeled with devastating power, for there is nowhere else for it to go. You stop being a man who is trying to do something. You become the thing that is being done, an unstoppable force moving along a preordained line. This is the great paradox of the warrior's way. A warrior who has entered the void does not act from a place of frantic, desperate energy. He acts from a place of deep, profound calm and unshakable certainty. Because he has only one objective, there is no internal debate, no hesitation, and no question of what to do next. The path is laid out before him, as straight and true as if it were a road mapped out on the ground. This state of internal stillness is the ultimate source of power. It is the silent, unmoving center from which the most explosive and decisive action is born. But this clarity is not a destination. It is the starting point for the real work, the relentless daily effort that forges victory from potential. You have entered the stillness of the void. You have seen your one true path with perfect clarity. But this vision, this profound certainty, is worthless if it remains a state of mind. A goal is not reached in a single grand moment of inspiration. It is forged in the relentless, monotonous, and unglamorous fire of daily practice. The spirit must be made manifest in the flesh. The vision must be translated into action. Miyamoto Musashi's philosophy on this was brutally simple and left no room for interpretation. His words were clear and absolute: the way is in training. All strategy, all philosophy, all warrior spirit is meaningless without the foundation of daily, repetitive, and focused work. Your singular focus, born from the void, must now be channeled into a singular, daily action. Think of your one great goal as a vast, imposing mountain. You stand at its base, overwhelmed by its scale. The peak is lost in the clouds, and the path is not visible. The weak man looks at the summit and, seeing the impossible distance, turns back in despair. The warrior, however, does not look at the summit. He looks down at his feet. He knows you do not climb a mountain in a single, heroic leap. You climb it by moving one stone, by taking one step, and then another every single day. That is the entire strategy. You must identify the one cut you can make today that moves you forward on your path. Not 10 cuts. Not 5. 1. What is the single most important action you can perform that, if done consistently, will guarantee your ascent. This is where the grand vision is broken down into the brutal reality of the next hour. To execute this daily cut, you must create a fortress in time. You must dedicate a sacred, inviolable block of your day to your one goal. This is not a casual appointment. It is a holy ritual. During this time, the world and its endless demands cease to exist. There is no phone buzzing with manufactured urgency. There are no emails from people pushing their agendas onto you. There are no excuses your own weak mind can conjure. In this sacred space, you do nothing else but the work. Miyamoto Musashi trained for hours every single day, repeating his cuts thousands of times until the sword was no longer a tool in his hand, but a part of his own body. You must seek this same union with your task. You must show up to this ritual with such consistency that your identity begins to merge with the act itself. As you commit to this daily discipline, you will find that the world will conspire to pull you from your path. It will send a constant barrage of distractions to test your resolve. A new, shiny opportunity will appear, promising faster results. An urgent task will materialize, demanding your immediate attention. The siren's call of the trivial will be a constant whisper in your ear. The highest form of discipline is not merely the act of doing your sacred work. It is the constant, unwavering act of saying no to everything else. Every no you utter to the unimportant is a resounding yes to your one true purpose. It is an act of war against the scattered world. But even when you master this defense against the outside world, you will discover that the most dangerous enemies do not lie in wait without. They arise from within the very practice you have sworn to uphold.